The 1920s in America, known as the Jazz Age, was a time of rapid economic growth and cultural transformation. After World War I, the nation basked in prosperity, with booming industries and new technologies reshaping daily life. Yet beneath this glamorous surface lay a society losing its moral compass, driven by materialism and the pursuit of pleasure. In The Great Gatsby, Nick Carraway, a young Midwesterner, narrates his experience in this dazzling yet hollow world. Moving to Long Island's West Egg to work in finance, he becomes the neighbor of the mysterious and wealthy Jay Gatsby. Through Nick's perspective, we enter a world of opulence, ambition, and broken dreams. At its core, the novel explores the cost of chasing wealth and the heartbreak of unfulfilled love. Gatsby's relentless pursuit of riches and his dream of rekindling a lost romance with Daisy Buchanan highlight the tension between aspiration and reality. Now let's delve into the story and uncover the life of the enigmatic Gatsby. Nick Carraway begins his journey by leaving the tranquil, orderly life of the Midwest to seek new opportunities in the bustling, unpredictable world of New York. A recent veteran of World War I, Nick feels both eager and uncertain about his future, hoping to find success in the bond business. His decision to move to New York reflects a larger cultural shift of the time, as young men and women flocked to urban centers during the roaring 1920s in pursuit of wealth and excitement. Nick finds a small house to rent in West Egg, a fictional community on Long Island. His new home is modest, even humble, especially when compared to the grand estates that surround it. West Egg is a hub for new money, people who have recently acquired their fortunes and often flaunt their wealth with extravagant parties, luxurious cars, and lavish homes. This contrasts with East Egg, just across the bay, which is home to old money, families with inherited wealth who pride themselves on their sophistication and social standing. Nick's house is nestled next to one of West Egg's most striking mansions, the sprawling, opulent estate of Jay Gatsby. Gatsby's mansion is an architectural marvel, a Gothic-style castle with ivy-covered walls, wide terraces, and manicured lawns stretching down to the water. It boasts a private dock, a swimming pool, and gardens so expansive they feel like a world of their own. From the moment Nick arrives, he is intrigued by his mysterious neighbor, who, despite living in such close proximity, remains a figure shrouded in mystery. Gatsby's presence is first felt not through personal interaction, but through the aura surrounding him. His mansion is a hub of activity, hosting extravagant parties every weekend. These gatherings are legendary, attracting hundreds of guests from New York City and beyond. The parties are spectacles of excess. Guests sip champagne under glittering chandeliers, dance to live jazz bands, and marvel at fireworks displays. Strangely, many of these attendees have never even met Gatsby. Conversations at these parties are filled with wild rumors about him. Some claim he's a war hero, others whisper that he's a German spy or the son of royalty. Despite the constant activity surrounding Gatsby's home, he himself remains an enigma. Nick notices this paradox. Gatsby's name is on everyone's lips, yet the man behind the name is rarely seen. Nick, who prefers quiet evenings, initially observes these gatherings from afar, amused and somewhat skeptical of their extravagance. One evening, shortly after moving in, Nick catches his first glimpse of Gatsby. Standing outside his own house, Nick looks toward Gatsby's mansion and notices a solitary figure on the lawn. Gatsby stands motionless, gazing across the bay toward East Egg. His posture is contemplative, almost melancholic, as if he's lost in thought or longing for something just out of reach. Nick follows Gatsby's gaze and notices a green light glowing faintly at the end of a dock on the opposite shore. Although Nick doesn't understand the significance of the green light, the moment leaves a strong impression. Gatsby's focus on the light seems to convey a deep sense of yearning, as though it symbolizes something profoundly important to him. This quiet, almost ghostly encounter contrasts sharply with the lively image of Gatsby's parties, adding an air of mystery to his character. Over time, Nick learns that Gatsby's parties, wealth, and the green light are all connected to a dream that Gatsby has spent his life pursuing. But for now, Gatsby remains a shadowy figure, his intentions and identity hidden beneath the glittering surface of his luxurious lifestyle. As Nick grows closer to Jay Gatsby, he begins to uncover the truth behind his neighbor's enigmatic persona. Gatsby's wealth, charisma, and extravagant lifestyle are not the product of old money or noble heritage, as some of West Egg's rumors suggest. Instead, they are the result of a relentless pursuit of a dream, one that began years earlier, when Gatsby was a young man named James Gatz. James Gatz was born into a poor farming family in North Dakota, far from the glittering world of wealth and privilege he would later inhabit. From an early age, he harbored a deep dissatisfaction with his humble beginnings. He dreamed of a life of grandeur, imagining himself as a man of great importance, far removed from the struggles of his parents. Ambitious and resourceful, James was determined to rise above his circumstances, driven by a vision of a brighter, more glamorous future. His life took a pivotal turn when he met Dan Cody, a wealthy copper magnate. James, then a young drifter working odd jobs, encountered Cody's yacht anchored near Lake Superior. Seizing the opportunity, he introduced himself and offered his services. Cody was impressed by James's intelligence and ambition, and he took the young man under his wing, giving him a taste of the luxurious lifestyle he had always craved. Although James served as Cody's assistant rather than his heir, he inherited none of Cody's fortune. This experience solidified his desire to become a man of wealth and influence. James Gatz became Jay Gatsby, shedding his former identity in pursuit of his ideal self. However, it wasn't until he met Daisy Fay that his dream took on its most compelling and personal form. Gatsby encountered Daisy in Louisville during World War I, when he was a young officer stationed near her home. Daisy, a beautiful and charming debutante, came from an affluent family in East Egg. She embodied everything Gatsby desired: elegance, sophistication, and the promise of a life far removed from his humble origins. The two fell deeply in love, but their romance was marked by an imbalance. For Daisy, Gatsby was a captivating young man with a sense of adventure, but her love was tempered by her practical concern for wealth and status. For Gatsby, however, Daisy became the center of his universe, the living embodiment of his aspirations. She was not just a woman he loved. She was the ultimate symbol of success, beauty, and the life he longed to achieve. Their relationship was cut short when Gatsby was sent overseas to fight in the war. During his absence, Daisy, unable to wait for him indefinitely, married Tom Buchanan, a wealthy and arrogant man from an established family. This decision devastated Gatsby, but it also deepened his resolve. For Gatsby, Daisy's marriage was not the end of his dream, but a challenge to overcome. He believed that with enough wealth and status, he could win her back, erasing the years that had separated them, and restoring their love as if nothing had changed. Driven by this singular vision, Gatsby set out to build a fortune. However, his path to wealth was far from honorable. Lacking the connections and resources of old money families, Gatsby turned to illicit activities. Through his association with Meyer Wolfsheim, a notorious figure in organized crime, Gatsby became involved in bootlegging and other illegal enterprises. These ventures allowed him to amass the immense wealth he believed necessary to rival Tom Buchanan and capture Daisy's attention. Gatsby purchased his mansion in West Egg specifically because it was directly across the bay from Daisy's home in East Egg. Everything he did, his extravagant parties, his luxurious lifestyle, even the meticulous way he crafted his public image, was designed with Daisy in mind. He hoped that his wealth and the glittering world he created would draw her back to him, convincing her to leave Tom and rekindle the love they had once shared. After learning about Jay Gatsby's enduring love for Daisy Buchanan, Nick Carraway becomes an unwitting accomplice in Gatsby's grand plan to reunite with her. Gatsby confides in Nick, explaining how every aspect of his life, his wealth, his mansion, and even his legendary parties, has been designed to catch Daisy's attention. Yet, despite his efforts, she has never attended one of his gatherings. Desperate to see her again, Gatsby asks Nick for help. Nick agrees to arrange a meeting. He invites Daisy to his modest home for tea, without telling her that Gatsby will be there. On the appointed day, Gatsby is both excited and nervous. His usually calm and confident demeanor gives way to a sense of vulnerability. To ensure everything is perfect, he sends a gardener to mow Nick's lawn and fills the house with fresh flowers. When Daisy arrives, she is unaware of the carefully orchestrated reunion awaiting her. The initial moments of their meeting are awkward and tense. Daisy is surprised to see Gatsby, and he is visibly nervous, struggling to maintain his composure. At one point, Gatsby even suggests to Nick that the meeting was a mistake and that they should call it off. However, as they begin to talk, the tension gradually dissipates. Memories of their shared past start to surface, and their connection is rekindled. Nick, sensing the need for privacy, steps outside, leaving Gatsby and Daisy alone. When he returns, he finds the two of them transformed. Daisy's eyes are filled with tears, and Gatsby's face radiates a rare and genuine happiness. It is clear that the emotional barriers between them have crumbled, and their old feelings have been revived. Following their reunion at Nick's house, Gatsby invites Daisy to his mansion. He is eager to show her the world he has built, hoping to impress her with his wealth and grandeur. As they tour the opulent estate, Daisy is awestruck by the lavish details, the marble floors, the crystal chandeliers, and the sprawling gardens. Gatsby takes particular pride in his collection of imported shirts, which he displays for Daisy, tossing them into the air in a cascade of colors. Overwhelmed by the extravagance and the emotions of the moment, Daisy begins to cry, exclaiming how beautiful the shirts are. While their reunion appears joyful, it is tinged with an undercurrent of longing and complexity. For Gatsby, this is more than a chance to reconnect. It is the realization of a dream he has nurtured for years. He sees Daisy not just as the woman he loves, but as the embodiment of an idealized past, a time of innocence and possibility. Gatsby believes that by winning Daisy back, he can restore everything to the way it once was. However, this dream of recapturing the past is fraught with challenges. Daisy, though deeply moved by Gatsby's devotion, is no longer the same person she was when they first fell in love. She is now a wife and mother, bound by the realities of her life with Tom Buchanan. While she is drawn to Gatsby's passion and the escape he offers, she cannot entirely abandon the security and status that her marriage provides. Gatsby, on the other hand, refuses to acknowledge the changes time has wrought. He is fixated on the idea that their love can be as perfect as it once was, if only Daisy will choose him. This idealism blinds him to the complexities of Daisy's emotions and the constraints of their situation. On a scorching summer day, Daisy invites Nick, Gatsby, and Jordan Baker to her home in East Egg for lunch. The atmosphere is stifling, not just from the oppressive heat, but also from the unspoken tensions swirling among the group. Gatsby is impatient and eager for Daisy to declare her love for him in front of Tom, thus severing her ties to her husband once and for all. Daisy, however, is visibly anxious, her composure cracking under the weight of the situation. During lunch, Tom senses the connection between Gatsby and Daisy and becomes increasingly agitated. Gatsby's usual confidence falters as Tom begins to assert his authority, making cutting remarks and probing into Gatsby's background. Unable to tolerate the growing hostility, Daisy suggests that they all drive into New York City to cool off, hoping to defuse the situation. The group arrives in Manhattan and rents a suite at the Plaza Hotel. However, the change of scenery does little to ease the tension. In the stifling heat of the hotel room, the long brewing conflict between Tom and Gatsby explodes into a heated confrontation. Gatsby, emboldened by his belief in Daisy's love, demands that she admit she has never loved Tom, and that she leave him for good. Tom, furious, counters by attacking Gatsby's character and revealing the truth about his fortune. He accuses Gatsby of being a bootlegger and of earning his wealth through illegal activities. This accusation shakes Daisy, who begins to see Gatsby's carefully crafted image unravel. Her initial excitement at rekindling their romance is replaced by fear and uncertainty. Gatsby, desperate to cling to his dream, tries to reassure Daisy, insisting that none of it matters and that their love can erase the past. He pleads with her to tell Tom she never loved him, but Daisy cannot bring herself to do so. Instead, she falters, admitting that she loved Gatsby in the past, but also loves Tom in a different way. This admission shatters Gatsby's idealized vision of their relationship, but he refuses to accept it, clinging to the belief that their love can still triumph. Tom, sensing victory, presses his advantage. He mocks Gatsby's attempts to rise above his humble origins, portraying him as a criminal who will never belong to their world of old money and social privilege. This humiliation deeply wounds Gatsby, but he remains steadfast, focusing entirely on Daisy. Tom, meanwhile, asserts his dominance, assuring Daisy that Gatsby poses no real threat to their marriage. He tells her to return home with Gatsby as a final gesture of control, confident that Daisy will never truly leave him. The tragic chain of events begins on the fateful night of the confrontation at the Plaza Hotel, as the characters return home to Long Island. Daisy, overwhelmed by the emotional turbulence of the day, insists on driving Gatsby's yellow car. Gatsby, ever devoted to her, agrees, hoping the drive will calm her nerves. As they travel through the dimly lit streets, their shared silence is heavy with unspoken tension. Meanwhile, George Wilson, the owner of a small garage in the desolate industrial area known as the Valley of Ashes, is distraught. Earlier that evening, Tom Buchanan had stopped at Wilson's garage while driving Gatsby's car. Wilson, having discovered his wife Myrtle's infidelity, was desperate and enraged. Tom, seizing an opportunity to deflect suspicion from himself, hinted that the car belonged to Gatsby, subtly implicating him without stating it outright. As Gatsby and Daisy approach the garage on their way home, Myrtle, believing Tom is driving the yellow car, rushes into the road, desperate to stop him. In the chaos that follows, Daisy, startled and panicked, accidentally hits Myrtle with the car. Gatsby urges her to keep driving, knowing that stopping would draw immediate attention. The scene is devastating. Myrtle's body lies broken on the side of the road, and the residents of the area gather in shock and horror. George Wilson is inconsolable, overcome with grief and rage. Tom, who arrives shortly after with Nick and Jordan, assesses the situation and quickly assumes control. He comforts Wilson but subtly reinforces the idea that the yellow car belongs to Gatsby. Back at Gatsby's mansion, Daisy is emotionally shattered, retreating to the security of her home and husband. Gatsby, however, is solely concerned with her well-being. He waits outside the Buchanan's house, watching over her through the night to ensure Tom does not harm her. From his vantage point, he sees Tom and Daisy sitting together at the kitchen table. They appear calm, their heads close as they talk. For Gatsby, this moment is a painful realization that Daisy may already be slipping away from him. The next day, Nick visits Gatsby, who is still clinging to hope. Gatsby recounts the events of the accident and reveals that Daisy was driving, but he insists on taking the blame to protect her. He is convinced that Daisy will come to him, that she will leave Tom and finally fulfill the dream he has chased for so long. However, unknown to Gatsby, George Wilson has been unraveling the truth in his own way. Consumed by grief and driven by Tom's insinuations, Wilson becomes convinced that Gatsby not only owned the car that killed Myrtle, but was also her lover. Blinded by his anguish, Wilson sets out to seek revenge. Wilson finds his way to Gatsby's mansion. That afternoon, Gatsby is floating in his pool, reflecting on his life and dreams. Despite everything, he remains hopeful, believing there is still a chance for him and Daisy. He waits for a phone call from her, a sign that she has chosen him. But the call never comes. Instead, Wilson arrives carrying a gun. In his delusion and despair, Wilson shoots Gatsby, killing him instantly. He then turns the gun on himself, ending his own life. The serene beauty of Gatsby's mansion is shattered by the sound of gunfire, and the dream Gatsby spent his life building comes to a tragic end. When Nick arrives, he finds Gatsby's body in the pool, surrounded by the quiet opulence of his estate. The tragedy is made all the more poignant by the stark contrast between Gatsby's lavish surroundings and the lonely, violent end he met. Gatsby's death marks the ultimate collapse of his dream. His relentless pursuit of love, success, and the past has led him to this moment, where the illusions he built for himself could no longer withstand the harshness of reality. Daisy, the woman for whom he sacrificed everything, does not come to his side. Instead, she retreats into the protective cocoon of her life with Tom, leaving Gatsby to face the consequences of their actions alone. The final chapters of The Great Gatsby present the haunting aftermath of Jay Gatsby's death. His once grand mansion, filled with exuberant parties and the laughter of countless guests, is now eerily silent. The house that was a symbol of wealth, ambition, and the allure of excess now stands vacant, its sprawling grounds empty. The lively gatherings that were a part of Gatsby's self-created world seem like distant memories, gone as quickly as the dreams that fueled them. In stark contrast to the lively energy of his former soirees, the estate becomes a cold and desolate place. Gatsby's funeral is a lonely affair, attended by only a few. The grand life he had so meticulously built around himself has ultimately left him isolated in death. The only person to show up for his funeral is his father, Henry C. Gatz, an old, somewhat disheveled man who has traveled from the Midwest. Henry Gatz's arrival underscores the gap between Gatsby's carefully constructed public persona and his true identity. The contrast is profound. Gatsby's life, filled with extravagance and mystery, stood in stark opposition to the humble, working-class roots from which he came. His father's presence at the funeral highlights the disconnection between Gatsby's dreams and the reality of his origins, further emphasizing the loneliness and emptiness of his pursuit. Nick, in the wake of Gatsby's death, is left to manage the aftermath. He attempts to contact others who might have been close to Gatsby, but the calls go unanswered. Daisy and Tom have disappeared, leaving no forwarding address or word of their whereabouts. It becomes clear that, for all of his wealth and the people who once surrounded him, Gatsby was, in the end, utterly alone. His so-called friends have abandoned him, and his dream, so vigorously pursued, has crumbled into dust. The funeral, attended by only a handful of people, stands as a stark testament to the shallow relationships that had surrounded Gatsby during his life. As Nick reflects on the events that have transpired, he is filled with a sense of disillusionment. The world he has been immersed in, with its illusions of grandeur and the empty pursuit of material success, seems hollow and morally bankrupt. He sees the corruption of the American dream, exemplified by Gatsby, whose determination to reinvent himself and achieve greatness ultimately led to his destruction. Nick's exposure to the world of the Buchanans and the other members of the upper class has left him disenchanted. He recognizes the superficiality, greed, and moral decay that permeate their lives, and he realizes that the pursuit of wealth and status has led to a profound emptiness. In the end, Nick decides to leave New York and return to the Midwest, where he hopes to find a more grounded, authentic existence. He believes that the people in the East, with their obsession with wealth and appearances, are lost in a dream that can never be fulfilled. He reflects on Gatsby's ambition and determination, acknowledging the greatness in Gatsby's capacity to dream and pursue his ideals, but he also recognizes the futility of that pursuit. Gatsby's dream, after all, was always an illusion, a yearning for a past that could never be recaptured and a future that was destined to remain out of reach. F. Scott Fitzgerald's The Great Gatsby stands out for its lyrical and poetic language, capturing the opulence and emptiness of the Jazz Age. Through vivid imagery and subtle symbolism, Fitzgerald paints a portrait of an era defined by excess, illusion, and the pursuit of unattainable dreams. His mastery of narrative style, particularly Nick Carraway's reflective voice, allows the reader to experience both the grandeur and the tragedy of the characters' lives. The Great Gatsby transcends its time, offering timeless insights into the human condition. While it tells the personal tragedy of Jay Gatsby's unrelenting pursuit of love and success, it also serves as a powerful social fable. Fitzgerald critiques the hollow nature of materialism and explores the tension between surface appearances and deeper truths, prompting readers to reflect on the interplay between material wealth and spiritual fulfillment. Its exploration of the American dream remains as relevant today as when it was first published.